the book that I just finished is about this, and how it's all hierarchy. Like within hierarchy, people are indoctrinated to think that they need daddy authority to take care of them. So self-esteem and any way of building it is dissuaded and poo-pooed. You know, like people are really steered to not have an opportunity to know themselves, to build their character, to move beyond fears and whatnot. So I think it leads to both. It leads to perpetual victims needing daddy authority to save them because hierarchy.
Yeah, I guess it's a chicken before the chicken or the egg kind of type of question, though, right? And I think it is the victimhood that was there first. Like, I think that that's part of, a nature that we've developed, that they just know really well, and so they dangle the appropriate carrots.
And that victimhood is, I don't understand what this person is talking about. I must be stupid. I'm just going to go along and eventually I will understand, instead of holding that person, the teacher that you're paying in some cases $25,000, $30,000, $40,000 a year for your tuition. They're getting paid more than that. I think professors are making like 80, 100,000 or more. Holding them to account to be able to explain it to you in a way that you can understand. And if they can't, then it's not something wrong with you. It's something wrong with them. Now, that's not to say that people don't ever end up in a class that they're not ready for or not qualified for. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about when people who are getting A's or B's in the class, right, are asking the teacher to clarify so we can all understand. And people sitting next to I'll ask the people in class, like, do you understand what they're talking about? No, but I'm sure we'll figure it out as we go on. And it's like that, it's that same point right there. That victimhood is the same thing as, I just must be too stupid to understand because everyone else does.
Well, and I also think it's super tied in, again, like chicken, if we have victimhood as a primary, issue that it's, currently preventing us from waking up to the nonsense, then there has to be perpetrator, right? Those two go hand in hand. And so, your professor saying, because I said so, that's part of it. And, at least in undergrad, the reason I did well is because I learned very quickly, just repeat back exactly what the teacher is saying. That's it. Don't embellish. Don't take it to another place. Make them feel like God because I'm saying what they said. And that worked.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah. I mean, I did that too, but that didn't stop the moment from happening where I would ask that question and have that, uncomfortable thing, right? It didn't affect my ability to, I didn't write the racist paper. I'm kidding, right? I didn't write the racist paper, mostly because I just didn't take that class. Otherwise, I probably would have. But I would, I would do that and I would get Twitter baited, and the teacher could not understand why somebody who was getting an A in the class was like so upset about this. Like, you obviously understand this well enough to get an A. What the fuck are you complaining about? Because I was actually trying to understand, silly me, just like I keep trying to get to the bottom of why these people are behaving the way that they do, Danny.
I got good at doing speeches in public school to make a point to a friend one time that the person who wins the speech does so by regurgitating information the best, not by creating a speech the best. I said, you might win in your classroom for coming up with something original. You might win maybe in your school for coming up with something original, but you're not gonna win everything by coming up with something original. And he was like, no, that's bullshit. It's the opposite. If you need to come up with something original. I'm like, look at what's happened year after year. And I had never done speeches. I'd always never done them. I think it's like grade 5 or something like this. And I'm like, I'll do one this year and I'll make it up. It'll be a story that I totally made up, and you watch, I'll win the school and I'll go to, the district or whatever came next, and I'll win that. But when it gets to Ontario, I'm not going to win. And they were like, I don't believe you. I don't believe you. So I got really good. I wrote a wicked speech and I did all of those things. And of course, the girl who won did nothing but basically memorize a bunch of, basically a Wikipedia page and present it back to me. We didn't have Wikipedia back then. I'm just basically what would be a Wikipedia page today, and or a encyclopedia entry, as it was back then, and then read it back from her memory. Like, I could literally, you could almost see her doing this in her eyes, like almost as if she was just had a photographic memory and was reading back the book to them, and she won. She was just like leaps ahead apparently. And of course everyone was coming up to me telling me that mine was their favorite, mine was their favorite, mine was their favorite, but I didn't win because I didn't regurgitate any information. I came up with something creative, and that's not what this is about, right? So there you go.
You may not have had Wikipedia or Google Glass, but she did. You think you knew everything before everybody else, Shane, right? You already there. She had it. She was read in at a higher level than you a few weeks beforehand, right?
I was just using a Wikipedia article as an example because nobody really wrote that. Like when you read an encyclopedia, that's not the way that an encyclopedia reads, right? Wikipedia is kind of new. It's a more effective.
Hey, superstars, thank you so much for sharing your sacred attention with me. If you are receiving any value whatsoever from my videos, I am encouraging you to give back, to pay it forward by supporting me on my Patreon community, on my locals community, on both. Your support allows me to keep on keeping on and to keep making content like this. It used to be much easier back in the days of a free press, but now given all of the censorship and the shadow banning, it really is challenging for content creators to continue to put out so much work. I'll just speak for myself. I'm excited for it to be easier for me to continue to put out more content. And the primary way that it can be easier is by you supporting me financially by way of my Patreon and or my locals, where for as little as $5 a month, you get to be my hero and receive oodles of bonus content, and we both get to win. Okay, thank you so much for your support, for your attention, and for being omniscopic amazingness.
Effective way of writing it, right? Obviously it has its issues, but that's more effective. But if you were going to, read an encyclopedia entry and then build a speech on that, it's basically the same as a Wikipedia page. That's what I meant by it.
I was just teasing
otherwise,
you.
I also get the joke, and at the same time, I probably did have access to Wikipedia at the time or something.
You just thought it was your own mind. You weren't clear on the level of AI that you had been indoctrinated into without your consent yet. Or in your case, you may have consented. You may have consented. So this reminds me of stuff with gymnastics, though, right? And like, I'm sure you can speak to this too, Danny, as a participant, not as much of it. Like, I watch way more gymnastics than you ever do or did, right? But the gymnasts that always end up being the winner or the Olympic champion or whatever, with very seldom, rare exceptions, right? They're always like the one who does the standard the best, right? And they may do it the best. They may look the prettiest doing it. They may really like do it well and perfectly and whatnot. They don't necessarily have to be a bot. It can still be like executed with a level of precision that is artistic. But the person who like does the unique skills or really has the out there choreography, that is the person that everyone will remember, everyone who knows anything about gymnastics or whatever will remember, is never, they're always either in the range of like third place to like also mentioned or whatever in things, right? But I don't think like Carly Patterson won the 2004 Olympics. Do any of you guys know who Carly Patterson is? Right? Like, she was like, if there was a bot in gymnastics, like, she was kind of a bot. She seems like a nice person, right? But there's other people in that era or of that time frame that were so much more interesting and that people had as their favorites. And like, maybe 6-year-old girls liked Carly Patterson the best, but I don't know anyone who was like an adult in thinking who was like, yeah, that Carly Patterson really brings something special to the table.
Well, I mean, obviously we're a culture of mediocrity and originality isn't really rewarded. I mean, you and I used to say this about Jordan Peterson back in the day, like, he's not an original thinker by any means. And then you look at, when we're talking about regurgitating, either if it's what a professor said or what we read in an encyclopedia, I noticed myself coming back to woke again. But those conversations with the beings who are defending that position, it's always a citation of statistics that they've memorized. It's the exact same thing.
Well, that whole world's broken too, because it's like, yeah, like Jordan Peterson, as you pointed out, isn't saying anything all that original, and he would say the same thing, that he doesn't even really understand why everyone listens to him, because it's like, of the people he looks up to, he's like down here. You know what I mean? Like, why aren't we listening to them? You're just listening to basically what I've learned through them. And then we get to someone like Andrew Tate, and everyone's like, oh, they're taking him out because he was speaking out against the Matrix. It's like, guys, like, any one of you speaks out against the Matrix just as much as that dude does. You know what I mean? Like, that's not a reason to do something like that to him. There's got to be something else, and I'm not going to go into speculation about what that is. But that's not like Julian Assange. I could see Edward Snowden. I could see Andrew Tate. Yeah, not so much. You know what I mean? Not when we have Epstein's running around, right? Like, come on now. But that's another example of like, we have people that we create experts out of as well, right? We put people up on a pedestal. We did it with our parents, and then it's a teacher in school, and then it's the celebrity on TV, and then it's like everyone that your friends say you're supposed to listen to, right? And it's that dangling carrot of like, this is the guy, this is the girl, this is the group, this is it, right? That's in everything. And yeah, you don't necessarily nurture something that doesn't exist. Like, that's more like grooming.